So when you're working with the pasunki that have their contents, that still retain their contents, one of the things to recognize is that the reason that's considered a powerful talisman is because there's a miniature sun floating inside the waters of life inside this shell. You imagine the yolk as the sun and the white as the waters of life. And that is something that symbolically creates a potency to this simple egg. And then on top of that, we've written prayers in beeswax, beeswax being considered something, again, sacred and related to the sun. The prayers themselves and the symbols that are used are sacred. So now we're building up layers of meaning, layers of symbolic meaning. Now, anyone who's ever had one of these talismans in their keeping will know, after a great length of time, if by chance we don't take good care of the medicine, which is the pasunka, if it gets exposed to extreme heat or if it's carelessly handled, the pasunka will explode. And it's not a pretty smell, and it's not a pretty thing. The contents will literally explode out. They can fly quite far in a room, cover many things, and if the pasunka has been sitting for a year or more, that smell is strong. My family used to have in keeping one of the pasunki from my grandmother. It was so old, several decades old, that the contents had completely dried, and so what was inside was a little hard, almost like it felt like a rock that you could hear when you shook it. So, being a caretaker of a talisman, especially of this kind, it's a very important job. You're a keeper of something that has been made with intention. You're a caretaker of something that does require care to keep. There's a lot of different lore around the pasunki and ways that they are used and what they're used for. So I take this and bury it on a piece of land on the dark new moon cusp. Each month, a different piece of land and a different pasunka, along with a gift motanka. So one of the practices working with the pasunki to help bring fertility to your garden and to your land is to bury a pasunka in the first furrow of your garden in the spring to ensure protection and good growth for your garden and your food. Another practice when someone goes to, and this is the old traditions, when someone goes to build a house, is to, after the foundation has been mapped out in very specific directions, is that you can bury in each of the corners objects. And some of those objects can be things like putting coins in the corners of the ground before you start building your foundation. You can bury a motanka, you can bury a pasunka. Usually you bury these medicines in places where no feet will walk. That's really important. And so I often will put these in what I call little root caves. Like I'll find a tree that has a bit of a place where the root has a cave underneath it. and then I can put the egg underneath there. Or I might find a place where I'm pretty sure people are not going to be walking directly on it. Could be under a bush, under a fallen log, sometimes in the crevices of cliffs, little rock ridges, and things like that. And I don't just like shove it in there. There's a whole process to me doing the personal ceremonies, the land reparation ceremonies. But I won't go into that right now. So intentional making and being conscious of what you're working with and treating it with care and understanding that the traditions and knowing the traditions is really important as a part of the process of helping to also evolve the traditions. This is what it is so far.